to the Masters of the Grindcast, and we're here with Bill Rebane, legendary Wisconsin grindhouse filmmaker. And Bill, did you love movies growing up when you were a little kid?
Yes, but I didn't like the word grindhouse or horror. Actually, that was never my bag to begin with.
What labels didn't you mind?
To what?
Like what labels of genre for your films didn't you mind or didn't get?
I was a big comedy musical fan, westerns, and mainstream old time Hollywood entertainment.
Nice, nice. Hey, Bill, can you push your hat up a little? We can't see your face. There you go. That's great. That's great. I appreciate it. Old-timey entertainment like musicals and stuff like that? Melodramas?
Yeah, mostly musicals. That kind of was my big star for me, and anything in major musicals or comedies, and it's very much the old Hollywood type character story-driven entertainment.
And you and after college, you decided to get into the entertainment business?
Well,
did you always want to be a filmmaker?
Well, no, I fell into that with the introduction of the 360-degree motion picture process in the late 50s. And by meeting the inventor and producer of the first 360-degree screen process in Germany. And I was designated to promote it in the United States, and I did. That got me interested more in the business of movies. I was more interested always in the business of movies or the motion picture industry than in production at that time.
And this was called Sanitarium, is that correct? Or?
You're right, Sanitarium.
And then what did you like sell the rights to like the studios and they made it like Cinerama? I'm a little confused.
Well, the first thing we did is we set up a demonstration of the process. I was working at the time, I had an office at United Film and Recording Studios in Chicago with a big sound stage. And we set up a sample for demonstration, and we're very lucky. We had Roy Disney come, Sam Goldwyn, Jack Warner, and we actually sold the process to a company called American Roller Rink Corporation. The problem was that the projectors at that time couldn't be built to project it vertically. As you know, any projector is usually a horizontal projector. And the process ultimately called for projection vertically to a prism, which was in the center of the dome, that would reflect the picture circular 360 degrees. It's kind of Cinemax is basically a takeoff on what we did, except it was picture was totally surround. I mean, we shot a demo at the Grand Prix in France for this process, and in the demo you could see the race cars coming at you, then going around you on swivel chairs. You could called, you could turn left or right. It would go around you, and then you could swivel around to the back of your back and see him going away. That's how sensational this process was. Disney tried something similar and were successful with it, but it was made with 16 cameras and 16 projectors. They had it, I believe, at Disneyland and called Circorama, and that's why Disney was interested in it. But what they did with 16 cameras, we did with one camera and one projector.
And this made you like a millionaire, but somehow you sort of got screwed out of a lot of the money, or what happened there with lawyers and stuff?
No, not at all. I was fortunate. I was a millionaire for a short few months on paper. I think we sold it for 5 or 7 million. And then the inventor, or the buyers, wanted, of course, all the paperwork and the rights. And I had an attorney who was a law professor at the University of Chicago, a Northwestern University. And we had to fly to France because the inventor then told us that he had sold the French rights to a businessman in Paris. So we got all panicked. We had $5 or $7 million in the bank account. And then came the legal question, well, is it free and clear worldwide? Well, it turned out to be that the investor in France didn't want to relinquish his rights. So bottom line, we couldn't go through with the deal with American Roller Corp.
Can you just talk about how distributors really screw over independent filmmakers, and how you decided to just not deal with that anymore?
Well, at first I was a novice at that too. I mean, after I made the first picture, which was a disaster, Monster Go-Go, as Herschel Lewis called it, it was unfinished when I signed it over to him for distribution. And a lot of footage was lost because, are you familiar with Herschel Lewis?
I am. He's in the documentary, and I was just going to ask you, were you aware of him at the time when you were at your snafu with Monster Go-Go, and how did you know to go to this guy, or was he aware of you? How did you guys meet?
Oh, Herschel and I were close friends. He officed at the same studio as I did in Chicago. And we were close friends. I know he was much more experienced in production than I was. I was more interested in the business and of the business. And we became close friends. And I used Herschel in various areas of production whenever I needed something. So, but he was ahead of me with feature films. He made a couple of non-union pictures in Chicago and got in a lot of trouble because they were non-union. So when I started my picture, because they knew there was a market for Terror at Half Day, that was the original title, I went ahead and did this, what I call a science fiction movie. That's what it was. And kept running out of money because the union stepped in and says, you can't make a picture in Chicago that's non-union. So at one point, they came and collected everything what we had in the budget and said they would put a union crew together for us. And the first 3 days of shooting, which were pretty rough exteriors, the union, it took a half a day to set up the equipment, another quarter a day to get ready for shooting. By the time we got ready to shoot a couple of scenes, the day was over and the union personnel was on golden time. So you can, the money that which was $45,000 to start with, they went through it pretty quick.
That's too bad. That's too bad. And when did, so did you make any, well, you sold that to your second movie, did you make any, when did you start making money?
It came many years later. It so happened that I was well connected with some producers in the industrial and commercial business, corporate image films, for quite a few years. I did nothing but corporate image productions, documentaries, and commercial work.
Was that satisfying?
Until I moved to Wisconsin. And even in Wisconsin, I was very fortunate. I had a producer friend in Chicago who depended on me. He got the jobs, the contracts. He simply called me. He says, "You got to go here, Indianapolis, Timbuktu, or wherever, and do this production for me." Of course, he got the most of the money, but at least I got paid. But I was pretty busy at the time, doing just the non-theatrical stuff.
And then when you switched back to movies and decided to self-distribute or get wiser in terms of making money, I guess, how does that happen?
Well, everything changed when I decided to move to Wisconsin and buy a piece of property there. Have you, by the way, are you familiar with the documentary called Wisconsin Movie Scrapbook?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. No.
I think that's, as a matter of fact, I just ran across it and sent it to my agent in Los Angeles.
Wow.
It was laying in my archives for years and years.
Wow.
But that documentary, I think, is something that would be very applicable here, because it tells the entire story of how where I started in the business, what happened when I moved to Wisconsin and started a theatrical production and built a studio and got into distribution.
So what were some of the battles that you faced with distributors? Did you ever have, really, angry, crazy battles, wanting your piece of the pie,
Well, the proof was in the pudding with giant spider invasion.
In a small Wisconsin town, something was about to happen that would send shockwaves around the world. Came from another world to destroy the Earth. It was the giant spider invasion.
Look at that! I'm still measuring an X-ray shower from the ground level at a magnitude never before measured on Earth except a nuclear explosion.
Well, Doctor, it could be an abortive strike from a unfriendly power.
Oh, come on. You don't think a missile landed here?
I told you something landed here last night. It's full of them.
I'm very concerned.
Well, frankly speaking, Doctor, so's the United States government.
They came by the hundreds, by the thousands, killing and crippling, creeping, crawling creatures determined to destroy the Earth. Could anything stop them? Could anything stop the giant spider invasion? There has never been a film like this before.
I mean, in the first year, the 24 million, as you probably know, I didn't even know until it was, I heard it on the Johnny Carson show. And that's when the ripoff started. Fortunately, it was a tax shelter deal.
Did you ever get any money from it, or were you just immediately disregarded?
No, we never got any money. The investors never got their money back, but they got a 4-to-1 under the 1975 tax deal. They got a 4-to-1 write-off on their investment, so they were very happy.
And up till this day, 2022, what have you made out of the movie, or what have you not been paid?
Well, I can tell you approximately what I have seen in cash from that picture in 47 years is about $50,000.
Wow.
And that's pretty sad.
And that movie was a hit. You know?
Yeah, I finally, 16 or 20 years later, I got the negative back.
That's crazy. How did it leave you to begin with? Did someone take it, or?
Well, no, it was creative bookkeeping. You know, they besides the 24 million it did in theatrical release, it did another 150 million in foreign sales the following years.
So obviously that pissed you off. Pardon my French. So the film after that, what did you decide to do differently, so you wouldn't sit on the sidelines and watch, you know, other people make money and you get nothing?
Well, after Giant Spiders, I changed my genre of film with Alpha Incident, and got a little bit lucky with that because we had a distributor tied in, independent distributor tied in, and we're going to go. Are you familiar with stateside distribution? That means that you distribute directly to the various states' sub-distributors that put it in theaters, and you get paid directly from them, and you eliminate the national distributor. And then, of course, just about that time, forewalling. You familiar with the word forewalling?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Charles B. Pierce was, I think, a forerunner with that.
Nice.
But
Nice.
Boggy Creek that was an interesting concept, but my thrust was mainly after Giant Spiders and Alpha Incident is to take the picture and go to the markets directly. I set up a distribution company and we just traveled to the Cannes Film Festival and Milan market religiously and did direct sales to foreign countries. And that changed everything. And with a little bit of luck, I had a good contact at Paramount. They picked up Alpha Incident for national distribution in theaters as a co-feature to Star Wars, which was again, I don't remember seeing much money out of that, but it was a big success anyway.
Wow. You must have made a ton of money off of that with the on a double bill with Star Wars, but sometimes the second movie gets screwed. I don't know.
You would think so. I mean, there's a good example.
Jeez Louise. And then you did your own Son of Boggy Creek kind of thing with the capture of Bigfoot, switching back to the other genre.
Well, that was an internal disaster. I had a distributor that offered Dimension Pictures, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you know the name Larry Woolner.
Oh yeah, we're familiar with some of the filmmakers in our documentary, like Graydon Clark, dealt with them.
Larry Woolner offered us a deal on Capture Bigfoot. It was unbelievable. 50-50 all the way down the line of gross. And the investor, I only had one investor in that picture. He says, well, if we can get a deal like that from Larry Woolner, we can probably do better if we shop it around. And we said no to the Dimension Picture deal, which was sheer idiocy. Because then the investor had the great idea of making 50 prints and doing stateside distribution by going directly to the sub-distributors in every state. Well, 50 prints in those days cost $50,000. So, and he forgot about the marketing money, the advertising dollars. So without advertising dollars, you might as well forget it. We opened in Detroit and I think 44 theaters. And the sub-distributor called me up. He says, Bill, where's the advertising dollars? I said, my guy doesn't have any. So we skipped along, opened in Detroit, didn't make a heck of a lot of money, but went on to put it in theaters wherever we could. But saw very, very little return, and the investor he realized it was his problem, so I had no difficulties with him. He made, one of the deals I made with him is that on distribution, he would make the final decision, and he did. And we got into trouble going that way.
Damn, that's crazy. And then after that, Rana, the Legend of Shadow Lake.
Yeah, that we did well in foreign on everything.
And it was distributed by Lloyd Kaufman's in our documentary. What was it like you dealing with Lloyd?
With Lloyd Kaufman, was phenomenal. I love Lloyd. We were good friends for a long time. I don't know what he's doing, but you know what? I have to. That was after I had a stroke in 1988, and I sold 2 negatives, Rana and Capture Bigfoot, to Lloyd. but I do not know what that contract entailed or what the details of that agreement were at all.
Mm.
Even to this date, I don't know exactly what rights they bought.
Why don't you call him?
Pardon me?
Why didn't you call Lloyd and say, hey, what's...
No, they called me.
Oh. So do you know if the rights, you still don't know if the rights have reverted back to you, or?
Well, I'm releasing the capture Bigfoot as a director's cut with extras now,
Okay.
regardless of whatever.
Yeah, it's your movie. I mean,
Because that movie was made, every picture was made under a different production company name because of different investors and different financial setups.
yeah.
That happened to Capture Bigfoot happened to have been made under the production company, the Studio Film Corporation. So it was a German company based in Hamburg, Germany.
Yeah.
So to be frank with you, I don't even know if I alone had the rights when I sold the negative, whether I was fully authorized to do that.
I haven't seen that one. Is it really about like a monster frog from hell?
No, not at all. I think it's a pretty clean picture.
Yeah.
It was tough to make because we had 30 below zero weather almost the entire shooting period, and tons of problems with making Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I meant on Rana.
On Rana.
Is,
Oh,
is
that was
there-
easy. That was a pleasure to do. Yeah.
is there a killer giant frog in that one?
What?
Is there a killer frog in Rana?
Oh, there's a frog guy in Rana, right? A creature.
Okay.
I call it a creature feature.
They somebody re-released it as Croaked. Have you seen that poster called Croaked Frog Monster from Hell?
Yeah, well, that's typical of Trauma and Lloyd Kaufman.
It is. It is. Joel M. Reed, who sold some of his films to Lloyd. His original film was called The Incredible Torture Show, and then Lloyd changed it to Blood-Sucking Freaks. So Lloyd's good with he's good with those titles. Legendary.
Well, he was he had a special niche cut out
Yeah.
for Trauma, and it was crazy, 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 wild exploitation, over the top stuff.
I don't see too many dramas on your resume. You obviously have an affinity for the otherworldly or just fun, interesting, and real popcorn sort of cinema. Would you agree with that?
Well, I can only tell you that no matter how low budget, how what we made, whatever, but one thing I can say that we always had a good storyline and it was character driven. And that was of monumental importance to me personally.
Doing something with Bigfoot or a frog monster, was that basically to a business decision because the marketplace and the drive-in market was needing films like that? Was that the idea, Bill?
Exactly. It was a mild, I call it mild exploitation.
Mild exploitation. I like that. It's like softcore exploitation.
I mean, every time I went to La La Land, visited and talked to my distributor friends and people in the industry, they always said, Bill, you gotta put more blood, flesh, and guts into the pictures. It wasn't enough what they were getting.
Going back sort of to how hard it is to make a movie and the independent nature or the independent realm that you were in, what was do you have any stories about working without permits and getting in trouble with the permit divisions and stuff, or the unions there?
No, fortunately, that was one of the most beautiful things in Wisconsin. After I started there and doing features, the freedom of operation, the cooperation. I was a non-union studio, and the cooperation I got from the community, the state, the county, the surroundings. It was fantastic. That's what made it fun doing.
Did you get like Wisconsin tax breaks and stuff like that too, or?
Actually, we never looked for those.
Because then they would know you were making a movie, probably, and you wanted to be under the radar, possibly. I don't know. Were all your films made in Wisconsin?
Yep.
Did you ever get offered to do a movie outside of Wisconsin?
Well, once we were fully equipped and we were basically the only feature film studio in the Midwest for over 25 years. We were well equipped, so we equipped, and I went to upstate New York to do A Miracle in the Manger. I don't know if you ever heard of it, with Donald O'Connor and Morgana King, most of which I directed and did the cinematography on. Unfortunately, they ran out of money at some point and couldn't pay the studio for all the equipment, and we had about 4 or 5 equipment trucks in New York, and were scrutinized heavily by the New York union. The only thing that saved us, the production manager on it was he was a lieutenant or a captain on the New York police force. We had a little bit of clout and softened the union impact on the operation.
Nice. I'm jumping around a little bit. Did you ever see any of your movies on in New York on 42nd Street or at the drive-in?
No, but I heard they were there.
But didn't get paid, probably. You're like, damn.
No, well, the ones I did get paid for, I must tell you, is the most successful two. The first musicals I did, Dance Craze and Twist Craze.
That's right. I wanted to ask you about those because those were 2 short films, and short films typically don't make any money. It's like, at all. But your films did, because I guess they capitalize on like crazes and stuff. And tell us a bit about these films. They sound amazing.
Well, Twist Craze made a ton of money and was picked up by American International Pictures after I think 9-week run at the Oriental Theater in Chicago with Pocket Full of Miracles. That was a very successful picture, and they kept Twist Craze running with it. So we made, my investors, I can tell you, were the most happy people in the world when that happened.
Was your idea to go to AIP, or just what was your plan to do?
No, AIP called me after they heard about the success in Chicago and New York. Sam Arkoff called me. I almost fainted when I heard from Sam first time. I says, "Hey kid," he said, "Yeah, here you got a winner on your hands." I said, "Well, it looks like it." He says, "Well, how would you like to come out in New York to Los Angeles and make a deal for international distribution?" I said, "When do you want me?" No, they paid for the trip, had me come out there and dine and wine me with lawyers and limousines and everything.
You said you almost fainted hearing from Sam Arkoff. Was he a hero to you?
Absolutely. Well, he was extremely successful and one of the newer Hollywood moguls and operations.
Were there any particular films that he produced that you enjoyed, or?
Well, I enjoyed all of the Roger Corman pictures.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. Are you interested in making another movie?
Well, I wrote Christmas at Rosemont, which is out right now. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not.
It was a beautiful Christmas love story with a miracle that I started writing in 1975, right after Giant Spiders. And it was one of the most acclaimed motion picture screenplays in Hollywood for at least 10 years. And good representation. I always wanted to do it myself in Wisconsin. And long story short, in 2004, I finally sold the script to Enderby Entertainment. That's not a pretty story either.
Mm.
It was massacred. It wasn't anything like the screenplay.
Did you get paid at least?
Yes, actually, yes, thank you. I did get paid for that one. After you sit on the script for about 15, 20 years, you got to make up your mind. Either you want to sit on it some more or you got to take the cash.
Exactly. So somebody in our, I think Ray Dennis Steckler, I don't know if you know who he is, but I think he says in our documentary, if anybody in Hollywood gives you any cash, take it, because that's all you're going to get. Something like that.
That's right.
We were having an interesting conversation the other day about streaming and getting fucked over streaming wise. What did you? Which movies was it? Spider on Amazon, and or some channels are running your movies and you're not getting paid, or what's going on there?
Spider is probably, I can truly say, it's one of the most pirated and abused cult classics in the history of independent pictures. There's no question about it.
Do you have a lawyer yourself that like looks out and sees your movies being, bootlegged or whatever, and is like, hey, Bill, and do they stop it, or is there anything you can do to stop it?
Or you can stop it, but getting restitution is another thing. And I made the mistake after catching it on Hulu, on the Peacock, NBC Universal, of sending him a cease and desist and demanding a restitution for their infringement. They're so big, they can do anything. They got so many lawyers. They just took it off. And by the time my lawyer got to them, they kind of forgot it. It's still in the works, by the way. And unless you have a barracuda lawyer that is very, very strong and has got a lot of guts, it's pretty tough to do anything with the big guys.
Do you think filmmaking is the toughest art because of the, I don't know, the business end of it? Because a painter has more flexibility, and a stained glass maker has, but a filmmaker sort of, we're screwed. We're beholden by certain people, and it's not a fun life. Has being a filmmaker been a fun experience for your life?
Oh, it was a ton of fun.
That's great.
I mean, I wouldn't have traded for anything except for the disappointments, particularly with Giant Spiders. And when you get a picture that grossed internationally over 47 years, generated some $300 million, and you haven't seen much of, and personally, I saw, like I said, about $50,000 from it in 47 years. That's pretty pathetic.
Did you have to have like a day job to like just withstand these years of possible getting screwed? Or
No, I never did. I was lucky enough to sustain myself. Well, the studio was self-sustaining, and the industrials really made it all happen.
So then after Rana, I guess you went into the Demons of
Demons of Ludlow.
yeah, of Ludlow. Can you tell me about that movie?
Oh, well, that was the first picture we made after we put up our 60 by 80 soundstage, and I had a script, and I had to do it at a budget. I think the budget was $110,000 or something like that. And in order to do anything like that for that kind of money, you have to maintain total control over what you're doing. So I built sets in the big stage on both sides of the stage with an aisle in the middle, so I could go from one to the next in a hurry. Totally controlled everything, pre-lit, pre-rehearsed. I think we shot it in 2 weeks.
And you own that facility, correct?
Yes, I did.
And so this allowed for the films to be high quality, but in a controlled environment.
Yeah, I know. It was also Rana and it was the first pictures where I decided to be the director of photography on them and shoot it actually myself.
What advice would you give to younger filmmakers today to retain the rights of their films?
Well, number one, I would say to any young filmmaker or person that wants to get into the feature film field is to start thinking about the script is the underlying foundation for everything, and start thinking about story and character driven material to start with. A good script. I know the public demands different things today. A lot more blood action and special effects, dazzling special effects. And that, to me, that's secondary. And it's also a question of a lot of young filmmakers, even in the old days, they had a choice. They could either go for think commercial, or they want to make an artistic statement with their picture. Well, I don't know why, but in the beginning and throughout my career, I did not necessarily want to make an artistic statement. I was more concerned about was there a market for it? Could I sell it? And could you be successful with it? That was more important than trying to make an artistic statement to me at the time. Sometimes I regret that.
What should younger filmmakers do not to get screwed over financially by distributors?
I don't think there is anything they can do unless they have, first of all, how do they even get to first base with any distributor unless they have a finished product that is so-called playable and audience acceptable, and that has some oomph or values that will make it successful.
But wouldn't you recommend self-distributing as opposed to getting a shady distributor?
I think if any filmmaker, whether that's some we call it credit card films, I just heard from a guy that yesterday made a Western for $7,000. Was kind of good, but they couldn't distribute it. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
What should younger filmmakers do not to get screwed over financially by distributors? And you said there's nothing you can do.
I'd like to know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Number one, don't go into streaming because there's no way that you can keep track of any kind of accounting on streaming.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I think streaming is the end of the end of everything. In fact, Herschel Lewis predicted that that your guys' kind of films would, or just films in general would end up, on streaming and platforms and stuff, and they have, and now they're dominating everything, controlling it. I think, it's crazy. So I guess so. Filmmakers are just should filmmakers just give up then because the independent filmmakers should we just give up because these bastards just have no sympathy for
At my age, I'm about ready to throw in the towel and say, what the heck am I doing all this for? I'm trying every day to figure out a new gimmick and maybe do a new director's cut with something new, with new extras or behind the scenes stuff. I think we're basically stuck with a collector's market.
Why don't you mentioned this, you have the other day you mentioned you have this a pretty massive archive of stuff that's never been seen before behind the scenes. Why don't you put out your own box set? Literally, I think people, myself, Steve-O, the Bill Rebane fans, and then go to one or two conventions and just sell the box sets. And I think that's what you do, buddy.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and we have talked about it. Some friends of mine have thought about it and suggested it. I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I can hang in there that long to do enough interviews and
yeah, I think it's a great product. I mean, it's your life.
Talk about the behind the scenes stuff, the trials and tribulations, the fun stuff.
Is
the actors involved.
Is Dance Twist available on DVD?
Which one?
The short films, the 2 20-minute short films.
Dance Craze and Twist Craze.
Dance Craze. My bad.
Yes, they are available.
Where are they? What label are they on, or what DVD are they on? Do you know?
I have a website that we just put up called Independent Artist Pictures, which is the same name, same company that I started in 1961, and that did Dance Craze and Twist Craze.
Is your book available on that website too to purchase?
Yes, it will be. My computer guru is a hardworking guy who only got a couple of days a week, but we're trying to fill it up with what we got and concentrate on selling DVDs of any and all of the pictures and signed copies only and numbered copies or whatever.
Nice.
My big problem is right now is living so far away from civilization in the northern wilderness of Wisconsin. There aren't too many editors around, and I used to edit everything, but I can't keep up with those new software programs and the gimmicks and all the special effects they put in there. I don't need anything. I just need straight cuts. But the biggest problem is getting an editor up here.
I can imagine. Where's the nearest city?
Well, the nearest bigger city is Duluth, Minnesota.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an hour and a half drive. So, and in shit weather, like 2 feet of snow, that doesn't work too well.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because of the low budget nature of your films, did you ever have any accidents on set or involving, someone almost, getting killed, or just a car flying off a bridge, or I don't know, anything wacky like that happen?
Thank God, no. I am blessed with that respect. But we had a family operation. My wife was the production manager throughout, my career, and she kept things going pretty well and steady, and knock on wood, we did not have any of those, any bad situations.
Did you ever have to like mortgage your house to raise the money for the next movie?
No, I did not.
That's good. And the Demons of Ludlow, is that a bunch of? I haven't seen that one either. Is that a bunch of demons, or what's the story about?
It's really a ghost story,
Is it?
an ancient ghost story that goes back to takes place in a New England village, and the piano revolves around a piano that is haunted.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah, I see the piano and the claw coming out of the keyboard. It looks
And
awesome. Oh, so that's in the box set.
that was a fun picture to make. Everything went extremely well, knock on wood.
And it was a period piece.
Yeah, kind of. Yes, it was, period.
Wow, that must have been fun to do. How do you go about picking your next film after you finish one film? You go, well, I want to do something completely different, or oh, I want to do a movie, about a crazy, giant spider invasion. How do you choose the next
Well,
thing?
I was doing in between pictures, or even during picture, I was doing a lot of writing, and I was always writing bigger pictures or mainstream type stuff. And every time I went to Hollywood with a script that was, a $2 or $3 million or more screenplay, they said, Rebane, stick to what you're doing. It's called typecasting. I was typecast to do what I was doing, the creature features and the sci-fi stuff. And the advice was always stick to that. You can't do one of these. You can't do a love story. You can't do a musical or this. So I decided at one point to do Twister's Revenge. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am. It was actually I was going to ask you about that next. So we're mentally. Was that movie inspired at all by the NBC TV show Knight Rider with the talking car, or was it?
No, it was inspired by my lawyer, who became a partner, who was a former Secret Service agent, lawyer by the name of Larry Dreyfus, who became intrigued with the studio business, and he joined us with Rana, and Larry and I came up with the Twister's Revenge story because we needed something that was different and not a creature feature. And we happened to have some contact to monster trucks and the guys operating them, and we came up with that story. It was sometimes pretty weird and crazy.
So so you did have access to some monster trucks. So did you, from a business where you're like, oh, maybe we can utilize that in the narrative? Was that the mindset?
Yeah, and I had some good connection at the Pentagon, so I got 2 Army tanks for free.
It was shot on 35 millimeter, correct, Bill?
Twister, no, it was shot on 16.
Okay, and you shot it, but it went direct to video. So is there a print? Has it ever been screened to the public? Has the public seen on film Twister's Revenge?
Well, again, Twister's Revenge went super big in Europe.
Yeah.
In Germany.
So did they blow it up to 35 or what?
Oh yeah, we did that. We did the first. My good friend who owned Western Cine Laboratories was the creator of the liquid gate process. So we did a 35 blow up right away.
Because it went to direct to video, what was the reason for the 35 meter print? Because it wasn't exhibited anywhere. It wasn't correct, or just was that?
No,
What was it?
it wasn't. You're right. Germany, it went big in Germany.
Okay, so it was for overseas.
Yeah, and the as a matter of fact, Trauma wanted it in the worst way, and we went through, I think, a whole week at the Milan film market with Lloyd Kaufman and his partner Michael Hertz, trying to drive a hard bargain, trying to get it cheap, and we just didn't make the deal. You know, I said, "The hell with you, we'll sell it ourselves."
Who owns it now?
I own it, lock, stock, and barrel.
Awesome.
As a matter of fact, I have a friend of mine who will come up right after the holidays, and we're going to do a bit of cutting on it, because there are some extraneous scenes and those stupid things in the bar of those characters that you see that don't belong there.
Hey, let me just tell you this. At least for the fan, give us both versions of the movie, because the fans love that kind of stuff. Believe it or not, I know you're looking at it through an artist's eyes, but trust me, at least show both versions is all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Or release them separately, and you can make twice the money. The original version and now the new director's cut. That's what I would do. Re-released Evil Dead 1,000 times. You have to buy the box set to get the original version, and there's so many.
Well, it so happens that on Twisters we got a lot of behind-the-scene photographs.
Oh, awesome!
And I have the A and B rolls on it, but unfortunately, I don't know if I have sound with them. But anyway, there's enough behind the scenes stuff and stories around it.
Yeah.
But thank you for that comment about, yeah, you're right. Maybe he liked this craziness that is.
Well, one of the not a filmmaker, but a writer in our a writer of a genre writer talks about the independent nature of your guys' movies, and that sometimes this unintentional surrealism happens. And that causes the audience member in repertory theaters to laugh and giggle about things that are out of their time, things that are maybe they think are dated or weird or culturally odd to them because they're hipsters in 2022. So who knows?
That gives me something to think about. Maybe I shouldn't cut out those crazy faces.
I don't think you should, or at the very least you should get. I think you should do a screen. I definitely think you should do a screening of it, because people love vehicles. Even still to this day, the Fast and the Furious movies are some of the biggest movies in the world because people love vehicles, and the fact that you have and people love monster trucks around the United States. People go to these shows, see these giant Godzilla-saurus things, and a monster truck that's a robotic monster truck that starts having a mind of its own and killing people. I mean, Bill, I think this movie could have a new resurgence. Obviously, a lot of people haven't seen it, but the audience that loves these kind of movies, like I don't know if you ever saw James Brolin movie called The Car.
Yes.
Or even Spielberg's Duel. Similar. Or did you ever see Maximum Overdrive? Stephen King's about the killer truck.
Yeah, vaguely I remember it.
Yeah, it was a killer truck and killer, everything. But yeah, it had a Green Goblin face on the front of the truck. But yeah, Twister's Revenge. Oh my God, that's amazing. I'm just looking.
We were gonna rename it. We were gonna rename it called Dumb, Dumb and Dumber.
No.
Because of the three.
Nothing. Twister's Revenge ! Is in the top 5 greatest titles of all time, along with The Wild Bunch and The Bridge Over the River Kwai. I mean, you got to keep it. This is the greatest thing ever. Going back real quick to Herschel Gordon Lewis. So, what did he say when you showed him your movie?
Monster Go-Go?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
After we ran out of money from the after the union took our money and I raised a few more money, I had to go with a non-union crew, and I hired Herschel as my production manager and my cameraman, and his partner, Bill Johnson, is a cameraman. And we shot a huge amount of footage. Believe it or not, it was the only picture in the history in Chicago movie making where the Mayor Daley, allowed us to block off Michigan Avenue and Oak Street during rush hour. If you can imagine that. I don't know if you're familiar with Chicago, but that's the main thoroughfare. And we had fire engines and the city police department behind us, the civil defense department, and they were running up and down Michigan Avenue and under Wacker Drive. Big production scenes, people on boats, on the river boats in Chicago River, coming off and running into Henry Height, the monster. All that footage went to Herschel Lewis's lab, and Herschel always had financial problems. So whatever happened to that footage is a mystery today.
Did you like Herschel's movies? I mean, they're probably like the opposite of what you would like.
I liked Herschel very, very much. We were the closest of friends. I thought he was a phenomenal director and filmmaker. He just chose with his partner Dave Friedman to go into the blood, guts, and horror stuff, which that was not my bag. But yes, we were the closest of friends. Herschel ran into a few problems, as you may know.
What was did Herschel, was there a particular film of yours that Herschel really liked?
Well, I don't know. After I hired him, I had to do a safety film with the FBI in Illinois, and I needed a cameraman, an extra cameraman, which was Herschel, and I needed some extra cars. And Herschel rented me 5 or 6 cars for the production, and they came from a stolen car ring. And can you imagine? And an FBI-oriented film, we rented cars from Herschel, who was part of the stolen car ring.
That's heavy. That's heavy. Jumping ahead a little bit, or in '84, you took a break from production and you were the president of International Picture Show Company, acquiring, or you were in the distribution game, right?
Yes.
Was that because you'd learned so much from being screwed up to that point, or you said you've been studying film law and all this for years?
Well, the International Picture Show Company, Lloyd Adams was a friend of mine, and Gordon Craddock, who was in charge of distribution domestically there, he asked me if I would take on be in charge of international sales for the company, which I did. It was a good time. We did some good deals. We had all the Don Knotts pictures, a couple of William Shatner.
Was Private Eyes one of those?
Yes.
Nice. I love that. I love that movie.
Don Knotts, and who was it? The other guy?
Tim Conway.
Tim Conway.
They're right. And then you, in terms of like Blood Harvest, what was the controversial there? Did they recut that too?
Well, Blood Harvest was, to me, the most disgusting picture that I never wanted to do and had problem doing, actually, because that was a little bit too much blood and guts and gore for me.
Why did you decide to do it if you were reluctant not to do it? Money?
Well, I did it because of the story at the time. At that time, the bank foreclosures on small farmers was a major issue in the media nationally. And I saw a story in revenge to the bankers. But the distributor was already involved, and my co-producer, an Englishman, friend of mine, Leszek Brzezinski, was involved. And my friends in Hollywood said, you got to give more blood, guts, and sex. There were times when during the slasher scenes, I was behind the camera and I turned on the camera, called action, and then turned around and I went out and had a cigarette and let it roll. I was just not one for the nudity didn't bother me. I mean, being European, we look at it differently in Europe, but the blood and guts, there was a little too much.
So did you take some stuff out of the movie? Some of the gore?
In the director's cut that I did called Nightmare Now,
Yeah.
we did, but very, very little. I had to compromise a little bit. But my wife, I think about 10 years ago, we did a fresh director's cut called Nightmare. And it worked. There was nothing really missing. Everybody still got there enough horror, blood, and guts. We didn't eliminate any nudity. So I hope it worked for some.
You're the producer on the film essentially, or one of the producers, or?
And cinematographer, yeah. And it so happens that I never signed a work for hire agreement. And 4 years ago, I realized it and recopyrighted everything, and every frame of the picture of the original and all the footage basically belongs to me, is my copyright.
If you were going to do another movie, what would it be about this time? Animatronic ducks from outer space? What
No, as a matter of fact, I have a script that I just finished called Melody. Melody. It's a faith-based picture, a miracle story.
Cool. Are you going to try to sell that?
Well, I'm going to make it first.
Or you're going to make? Yeah, you're going to. Okay, that's awesome.
I would make it first.
And now you can acquire money. Now you know people that can raise money for this type of film.
Yes, there's quite a coalition of people that.
For this genre, do you go to like the faith-based community for investors, for example?
That was my plan, yeah, is
Okay.
part of my plan.
Well, the one good thing is that faith-based films do very well lucratively as well. So hopefully you can make a couple bucks as well, but people love them.
Yeah, and if I'm hoping to get one star, one major name, even though they may be very old, but it requires an old lady who is in a wheelchair. And I was thinking of Shirley Jones.
She's great. She's classic. I saw her come out to Elmer Gantry and she was so nice. She even signed an autograph for my dad. She was cool. Bill, if we do that, start our own distribution company and we get the movie financed and we make the movie, then is the idea to go to the American film market and directly sell it to a certain person?
Well, I tell you, I would do it. I would do that a little differently too. If you think you've got a playable picture, I would go states' rights distribution. There are a few independent theater owners that are sucking canal water because they're paying for the big pictures. They're paying such high percentages. They can't make any money except on popcorn. You can gather up enough states' rights distributors or theaters, and you get a play in, let's say, 4 or 5 theaters in a good area, immediately it types you as a theatrical. It makes it a theatrical. From there on, you start getting more reactions from the foreign market, from the broadcast market, and of course the totally no good streaming market. They'll want everything for nothing.
I got to ask you, Bill, are film festivals a complete waste of time? I feel now they're just totally, it's all who you know now, and it's political and corporate now, because for every film festival you put in your film, you got to pay them $50-$60 for for them to admission fee, and by the end of it you're paying. Is that a waste of time?
You got a smoke over there? I think you're right. As far as I'm concerned, they're a total waste of time. It's a nice place for the filmmakers and film lovers to get together.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to pay a fee to even get in there. And there are only the streaming people will be there and try to get everything for nothing. And you'll never see a penny out of it.
And that's what sucks too, is a lot of these people, these genre film festivals, the streaming and the popular corporate sort of stuff, is all that stuff gets in, and then the real independent, they don't get in there, because it's there is no such thing anymore, really, in a way, in terms of festival wise. There's no, Sundance isn't a independent film festival, it's a corporate film festival, and the same with all the other ones. They all suck. Are there any new movies? Have you seen any new movies that you like, Bill, that you thought were decent?
Not a damn thing.
Wow.
I know I say I watched Yellowstone for times. But
Well,
that's
yeah, all the best, now all the great films are the series, like Yellowstone and Stranger Things, and they're more cinematic than the actual movies. The movies are just, they show, like you said it, there's nothing but just action and over the top, horrible special effects and stuff. And what you guys did was hands on, and you did the real thing, and we appreciate it, buddy.
I do have another picture coming out.
Oh yeah, what is it?
It's, we did it about 7 years ago, called Ghostly Obsessions.
Ghostly Obsession.
It's a ghost story. It's a ghost story.
And that, where are you trying to shop that around right now, or?
I have a little bit of tweaking to do on it, a couple of special effects I want to do in camera ghost effects.
And that was shot on digital?
Yeah, that was shot on digital.
What do you like? Do you prefer film or digital?
Well, I prefer film, but it's too much aggravation, too much lighting required.
What do you shoot on?
I got a P2, Panasonic P2. It's a 2K camera. I personally think that the more of the film look I can get, the better I'm off.